Are you not the cutest thing I've ever seen? You're like, I would what's the most challenging thing you've gone through?
Oh wow. That is tough. Wow. See, I didn't expect us to go. I'm like, how far do I want to go with this? I don't know. So once upon a time, I was in the Air Force, and I was a medic, and I volunteered for a deployment to the Middle East and went to Kyrgyzstan. But on the way there, we had some incidents, and like our plane had some problems and started to go down. So they came out and told us the plane was going down, saluted us, all that stuff. Long story short, it was an act of God, and we obviously didn't go down, and I'm still alive. But then the crazy thing about that was like the very next day after I got to the base,
Mm-hmm.
and we made it there alive, which was like a super terrifying thing, and like people like retired after that, and they were like, I'm never flying again, and I still have trouble flying. But an aircraft crashed, and I had to go work the plane crash after our little incident, which it's hard enough to work like a plane crash anyway. And there were a lot of casualties, and so that kind of like flipped me out about
So there
getting
were
back
like
on an
two
airplane.
faulty planes, like.
Faulty. Okay, so the aircraft that they fly in the Air Force, a lot of them were made like, I mean, they're like World War II. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my
They're
god,
like
they're still
old.
that old?
Yeah, they're so old.
Oh
I mean, they keep them
no.
like maintained, but anyway, but it was a civilian plane that went down that we had to go to respond to, but because it's like out in the middle of, you know, the Middle East, there wasn't anybody to respond. So we were sharing a runway, and we went out and responded, and it was the middle of the night, and anyway, that was a whole thing. And then around that same time, I was married to my son's biological dad, and found out that he was tremendously like involved and consumed in like this whole child pornography ring. Yeah, so I turned him in, long story short,
Yeah.
and like it was a big deal, and it was all over the news,
Oh my god.
and it was like the FBI. I took it to the FBI, and I had all these like interviews to go. It was just a horrible, like I feel like I'm starting to shake like talking about it, but it was it was just a horrible thing, and my son doesn't remember him. He was like 18 months old
Okay.
when that happened. So needless to say, I got like the hell out of town, but it just came out of nowhere, and it was someone that I thought I knew, and it like,
You had a child.
oh my god, I had a child. Anyway, it was the scariest thing ever, and it was just like really, that was just really a difficult thing. And then I had the deployment, and then it just seemed like everything kind of happened all in that year. So that was hard, but
And what year was this? Like, how far back was this?
that was probably, let's see, 08.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a minute, but like my PTSD and my depression and all that, really like that's when that all hit me, was after that.
Mm.
So, but you know, now I had all that medical training, which was amazing, and did all that crazy stuff, and so now I'm tattooing and learning to do that. So I'm using my medical skills and my art skills, and here I am. So, you know, but you got to persevere. I mean, I'm definitely like grateful to be alive, because I know all too well like mortality, our mortality. I mean, it's just wow. So I'm very, very grateful, and I think that gives me a sense of kind of like not giving a shit about a lot of things that are just seem really trivial, because I'm just grateful to be alive.
For real.
Yeah, for for the time we're here, so I'm gonna live it up.
What's one of the hardest conversations you've ever had to have, and how did you handle like going about that?
Ooh, telling my husband that I had slept with a woman was definitely one of the hardest conversations I've had. And actually, this is going to sound horrible, but I did it over FaceTime, and let me tell you why. I was living here working on a big art installation, and anyway, I was going to go home. It was about another week before I was going to go home, and I just couldn't like live with myself any longer. So I called him on FaceTime and told him I had something really difficult to talk to him about and to tell him, and asked him if he wanted me to wait, or just go ahead and get it out. So we talked about it, and I just, straight up told him. So that was very difficult. Coming out to him, I mean, and he's a great person. He's a great guy. He was a great husband, but it just, it just kind of happened that way. But and coming out to my family, coming out to my mom was really hard.
Was your mom like accepting?
No, she not at all. And she told me that I had ruined the family, and just a lot of hateful things. And so I wound up like leaving that conversation, because again, when people turn like angry and they're just judgmental, I can't, there was nothing that I could say or do at that point in time to change her mind. So I just had to come back to that conversation later. But now she's definitely, I don't know that she's accepting, but she's tolerant.
Okay.
So
what don't you want to tell people but know you should share because it could help someone else?
I don't like telling people about my child's dad and the whole child pornography thing. I don't like telling people about that. I don't like telling people about PTSD, and when I'm really low and having low spots, I don't like to tell people about that. And I guess that's for fear of judgment. So, or I don't know that. I don't want sympathy from people, and I don't know. But I think talking about it is the only way that things are the more we talk about it, the more we'll be able to talk about it. Because I don't talk about it because it's hard to talk about. So.